Hello everyone, welcome to the NPTEL online certification course titled Medical Law. As you know, this our course is of 8 modules having each module 5 lectures. So today we are at the 7th module. We will start the 7th week as 7th module. So lecture 31. We will discussing about the surrogacy and various ART techniques. Myself, Dr. Chaitanya Mittal, as medical legal consultant at Dr. B.C. Roy Multi Specialty Medical Research Center, IIT Kharagpur. So today we will start with the week 7, module 7, the first lecture as lecture 31 of our course with surrogacy. So we will discuss ethical insights into the different aspects of surrogacy practice and assisted reproductive technologies. So the various topics or the concepts we will cover in this lecture are surrogacy, the various types of surrogacy, the history of surrogacy in India, the legal development of surrogacy in India, the ethical issues in surrogacy in our country. So the keywords, the important keywords which we need to understand in this lecture: surrogacy, surrogate mother, parenthood, ethics, as well as the medical law and ethics part. So we should know, what do you mean by the surrogate? What do you mean the word surrogate means also? So the word surrogate or the surrogacy has come with the word surrogate. Surrogate originated from the Latin word subrogare, which means appointed to act in the place of. किसी और की जगह पर किसी और को रखना या किसी और की जगह पर किसी और को वो काम करने के लिए कहना. आप वो खुद नहीं कर सकते लेकिन किसी और को बोला गया. So surrogate or the surrogacy. It implies a substitute. So the surrogate mother means a woman who gets pregnant and brings birth to a child to give away this child to another person or a couple, generally alluded to as the intended or commissioning parents. To put it simply, surrogacy is possibly as a method alternative to adoption. For example, a couple who cannot be pregnant themselves. After the child is born, the mother gives custody and partnership to the intended parents. Surrogacy seems beneficial for all the parties involved in the process, at least on the face, as the intended parents get the custody of the child and the biological mother who bears the child for 9 months gets the money, or we can say the honorarium or the compensation or the amount for a take care of self and the baby, along with the assurance of aftercare of the child. So surrogacy has complex legal and medical steps that must be met. Should know the eligibility criteria of surrogate mother, who can be there, so that all comes under Surrogacy Act. We will discussing in the further lectures. It raises the principal issues regarding the nature of personhood, the dignity of the person, the autonomy of the individual, and the extent of choice of an individual. So the various different types of surrogacies. So mainly on the basis of two things these have been divided. So first, on the basis of the technique used in the surrogacy. So that can be either traditional surrogacy or gestational surrogacy. Second, on the basis of the practice of surrogacy, how it is being practiced in the daily routine or in a nation. So first is altruistic surrogacy and second commercial surrogacy. So which is being allowed now in India is altruistic surrogacy. So coming to the detail of the various types. The traditional surrogacy. In traditional surrogacy, A woman provides her own egg or the ova, which is fertilized by artificial insemination, carries the fetus and gives birth to a child for another person. This method is also known as straight method. The surrogate mother is the genetic mother of the child, and the child will have the genetic characteristics of the mother. Gestational surrogacy. In gestational surrogacy, the surrogate mother gets pregnant via embryo transfer. This technique allows the doctor to fertilize an egg from the intended mother using a sperm from the intended father. The fertilized egg is then transferred to the surrogate's mother uterus. The surrogate mother is not the biological mother of the child. He just carries the womb or work as a surrogate. So, now coming to the another classification, altruistic or commercial. The surrogate mother does not get any financial reward for her pregnancy. Certain countries only recognize this type of arrangement of surrogacy. So, but that does not mean she will not get the amount or the reward for doing the daily routine, take care of her own as well as the embryo or the fetus, and due treatment or the prenatal, even natal treatment. So, for the treatment and the care, the reward will be getting, but not as an financial reward for her own compensation. Commercial surrogacy, it involves a surrogacy arrangement in which the surrogate mother receives some kind of financial benefit other than the treatment or daily routine due care of the pregnant woman. This involves numerous risks such as exploitation, commodification, trafficking of surrogate women and surrogate children. This arrangement is legal only in few jurisdictions. It is not allowed in India. So, coming to the history, how it has come up, the surrogacy in our nation. Infertility is viewed as a curse, and becoming a parent is a blessing in India, with a special emphasis on the son carrying out the vanch. It is said that female infertility is a curse upon them. So, how to carry out their vanch? In India, women who struggle with conception or are infertile are referred to as banj. They cannot carry their vanch further in future generation. So, the term is in traditional Indian or vernacular name as banj. Surrogacy is not a new term in India, and it has been practiced in India since time immemorial. The practice of surrogacy can be traced back to Hindu mythology. The practice of surrogacy has been practiced in India since ancient times, as it was known as Niyoga Dharma. In Mahabharata, there are various instances where the Niyoga was practiced. In Bhagavad Puran also finds the description of embryo transplantation. The embryo was transferred to the second wife of Vasudeva, and his fetus was later born as Balram. The Kartikeya, mostly known as the god of fertility, was also born out of surrogacy through the consummation of Shiv and Ganga. In modern times, the first child was born through surrogacy in India in 1994. Also in 1997, a woman agreed to carry a child for another couple for payment of rupees 50,000 during that year in 1997. So, what are the legal approaches? How need to be proceed on the surrogacy in India? In 2002, India authorized commercial surrogacy. Nevertheless, the ICMR, Indian Council of Medical and Research, created the regulation after examining the drawbacks and establishing the limitations of commercial surrogacy. However, legislators attempted to put forward strict recommendation between year 2005 and 2008, which were a result of discussion and arguments with legal organizations. The strategy was to merely develop the concepts that address the eligibility requirements and not the long-term problems. A number of dishonest practices are being carried out these days, which not only pose a threat but also affects the country's honor. In addition, the intermediary role in the money transfer from the intended parents to surrogate mother causes a number of social, medical and ethical issues involved in the surrogacy. The turning point took place in the year 2008 when a surrogacy related complaint was brought before the Supreme Court. So, coming to the various famous judgments, the Baby Manji Yamada versus Union of India year 2008 Supreme Court cases 518. So, what were about the facts of this case? The Baby Manji Yamada was a child born to an Indian surrogate mother for a Japanese couple who a month after the child's birth separated and the future of the child was left in the dark. They got divorced, the Japanese couple got divorced. So, now who will take care of the child? So, the future of the child was left in the dark. The biological father Ikufumi Yamada wanted to take the child to Japan, but the biological mother has completely denied, but father has agreed. Now, but the legal framework had no such provision for such a case, nor did the Japanese government permit him to bring the child back home as the child was born in India. So, what was the observation of the court? So, the Supreme Court of India has decided, had to intervene, and the child was allowed to leave the country with her grandmother. The issue was pertaining to getting travel documents for a Japanese born child born in India via commercial surrogacy. The Supreme Court noted that commercial surrogacy is permitted in India. The Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Bill of 2008 was drafted at the same time as the decision. Unfortunately, no action was taken to put the bill of 2008 before Parliament. This led the Law Commission to examine the issue of surrogacy for research. The exercise resulted in the Law Commission in a 228th report, which was filed in August 2009 and comprised a revised legislative proposal for regulating the surrogacy process in India. A revised version of the Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Bill was drafted in response to the Law Commission's recommendations. The Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Bill 2014 finally came into being after multiple revisions. However, this bill had the same destiny as the bill of 2008 and was never allowed to pass. Meanwhile, the Surrogacy Regulation Bill 2016 was introduced. Unfortunately, the bill was again not introduced in the Rajya Sabha. Subsequently, the bill of 2016 was reintroduced in 2019 and passed in the Lok Sabha in a same year and in Rajya Sabha subsequently and notified in a year 2021, which was known as Surrogacy Regulation Act 2021 year. All the surrogacies in India are now governed by the Surrogacy Regulation Act 2021, and further the amendments have come up as Surrogacy Regulation Amendment Rules in this current year 2023, and various guidelines or the eligibility criteria has been made who can become the surrogate mother, or whether the altruistic surrogacy or commercial surrogacy being allowed, what will be the compensation amount to be given, or what will be the legal and ethical issues related to it. So, coming to the ethical issues in surrogacy, generally speaking, the moral justification for commercial surrogacy is that it benefits the women who aren't biologically suitable to be mothers. It makes motherhood more enjoyable for them. At the same time, families who are experiencing frustration as a result of not having a child can resolve this issue, and commercial surrogacy is undoubtedly a solution to this problem. What matters though is the ethical and moral implications of surrogacy, how the commercial surrogacy can be allowed or can be done. Definitely it can be a problem, it can be a solution for a frustration for a couple who is not able to have their own child, but we have to discuss about the moral implications regarding it for a future. So, when you look over the obvious benefits of surrogacy, a poor surrogate mother receives much needed financial support and infertile couple gets their long desired biological child, but the real picture reveals the bitter truth, because there is a lack of appropriate legislation, middleman and the commercial agencies which profit from the exploitation of the intended parents as well as the surrogate mother. So, if it is being allowed, the exploitation occurs. So, that should be prohibited. The whole framework of surrogacy market lacks transparency, and the regulations that control surrogacy in India are inconsistent. So, what all can be the ethical issues? So, few examples are there, we will go through one by one. So, first, commodification can be there, exploitation, the consent issues, the sex selection, undue influences, corruption can be here, parenthood, who will be the real parent, whether biological father or surrogate mother, biological parents or the surrogate mother, eugenics, unjust enrichment. So, there are various ethical issues in the surrogacy. So, commodification. Surrogacy markets have emerged as a result of the commodification of pregnancy, particularly in nations where there are few laws governing surrogacy and a large number of impoverished women searching for legitimate means of making money. Fears of selective breeding for a fee, baby farms, black marketing and a baby selling have increased as a result. Another, exploitation. Coercion of surrogates is often subtle and is concerned with the vulnerability of the women agreeing to become surrogates. Coercion of surrogates is related to their exploitation. The poor social background. Most of the surrogates do not even understand the terms of surrogacy agreement, and hence the hospital or the surrogacy agencies excludes the surrogates and keep heavy amount of money with themselves. So, like this the exploitation occurs. So, whatever the agency says to the surrogate mother, they agreed. As they are poor or illiterate, they just agree for a small amount. Like this the agencies exploit both the side, surrogate mother as well as the biological parents or biological couple. So, they play with their emotions. So, like this the ethical issues can be there, the exploitation. Another, the consent. The consent of all the parties involved in the surrogacy process is very important. It is a must to inform each and everyone about the risk and the benefits of the surrogacy and clearly take the informed consent from everybody involved in it. The consent of both the intended parents is essential for the issues of parenthood, child welfare and the custody, to avoid future implications of adultery and the use of gametes postmortem, especially when artificial insemination is involved. Informed consent of the surrogate in a language understandable to her is essential to avoid any instances of coercion or exploitation. It is very much necessary for the informed consent to be in a native language or the language which the surrogate mother can easily understand by his or her own and should able to sign it. She should at least minimum to understand the pros and cons of it, detailed mention on the informed consent of the surrogacy. The consent of donors of gametes involved in the in vitro fertilization is also equally important to avoid future parenthood issues. So, it is very much important. Start from the basic, the first step, the surrogate mother, necessary to inform each and every step of the surrogacy, take an informed, proper, voluntary consent from her. Second, if anybody donor is being involved in this procedure of the surrogacy or in assisted reproductive technology, their consent is much necessary, so that they should not create any problems in the future. And the biological parents, their consent is also necessary, that if anything happens, they have to accept their surrogate, the child happen or child comes from the surrogacy. It is necessary to adapt or accept whatever being the reason of any mishap or any accident or any anomaly, fetal anomalies to a child, still the intended or biological parents has to accept. So, all the things to be mentioned in the consent part, and all their agreement or they should agree for the same thing, that is a surrogacy in the same sense, everybody who are involved in the surrogacy. So, coming to the next ethical issue, the sex selection. The preferential selection of a male embryos for implantation raises another ethical concern in societies where there is a cultural and religious preference for males over females. So, that should not be mentioned that this embryo is a male or female. Okay. So, there should be no sex selection. Abuse of surrogacy is possible, particularly in countries like India, where there are strict regulation prohibiting the determination of a gender of child during pregnancy through natural conception. So, it is completely illegal to know the gender of the child. So, this exploitation or the abuse of surrogacy can be possible, but this should be prohibited completely in the surrogacy. So, another undue influence. The surrogate mother is vulnerable and keen to fall for undue influence from the members of her family. Even in altruistic surrogacy, where the mother does not get any financial compensation, the family members put her under pressure to be a surrogate for close relatives or the members of the same family. In commercial surrogacy, hospitals or surrogating agencies may put pressure on the surrogate mother to get into the surrogation agreement. So, there should not be any force, there should not be any undue influence, there should be completely free and voluntary consent or agreement for a surrogacy. Coming to the next, corruption. Procreation is a moral and philosophical value that is connected to the ethical problem of corruptions. The introduction of money could diminish something by creating a market for something that is morally and socially valued. Numerous scholars have referred to surrogacy as womb renting, which they claim diminishes the practice morals and sacred importance. Definitely, if there is any financial or reward being associated, definitely it will be called as womb on rent. So, like this, corruption can happen in a society. So, this should be completely prohibited as an ethical issues and should follow moral and the sacred importance. Parenthood. The relationship between the legal and biological parenthood is an issue of surrogacy. Determining parenthood in cases of gestational surrogacy is basic, because there is no genetic connection between the surrogate and the child. This gets complicated though when the surrogate is also the biological parent. The surrogate's emotional attachment to her genetically related child could lead to her eventual refusal to give them up to the intended parents, creating difficulty in ethical and legal situation. So, that should be completely explained to the surrogate mother before going through the procedure of surrogacy, that you have to give it back to the intended parents to should not have create any legal problems in future. Eugenics. The discovery of CRISPR, that is a clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, or we say Cas9, one of the modern genetic engineering technique, and reports from China regarding efforts to create tailor-made babies raise ethical questions regarding morality, discrimination, and the dangers of playing the God and the impact it might have on society in the long run. So, this is the concept of eugenics. Unjust enrichment. Hospitals, surrogate agencies, and illegal middlemen who traffic surrogates raise serious ethical and legal issues regarding the safety, privacy, and betterment of the surrogate mother. So, it is very much necessary to take care of the surrogate mother through the medically, mentally, physically, everything, all throughout the process of surrogacy. Even after that also the treatment or the care should have been given to the surrogate mother, need to be mentioned clearly in a form before starting the surrogacy procedure. So, coming to the conclusion of this lecture. So, what we have understood with the ethical issues related with the surrogacy or the various assisted reproductive technologies. Definitely there have been the guidelines by the government by creating a particular act, but it is necessary from the public or from the individual side to follow the act properly and maintain the ethical and the legal guidelines, so that for the future the issues or the problem should not arise because of the surrogacy, and it should be converted to be as a boon to the intended couple, those who are having emotional attachment or having any medical problem, not having a child. So, the surrogacy should become as an boon to the society, not as an bane or a sharp हो सोसाइटी के लिए. सरोगेसी एज एन आशीर्वाद के रूप में आना चाहिए सोसाइटी में. सो द कमिंग टू द कंक्लूजन इज दैट द रिप्रोडक्शन हैज चेंज्ड significantly over the last few decades, with surrogacy being one of its most controversial practices. With the promise of justice for all, the balance should prevail in the individual's alternate method of parenthood and autonomy. India seems to be moving in the right direction by introducing regulating legislation. However, India still has a long way to go before balancing the surrogacy industry ethically, legally, and social aspects. It is very much necessary to keep and balance between everything, even start from the medical aspects, to be follow the complete care of the surrogate mother. It should not that after getting a child to the intended couple, they should not have any take care to the surrogate mother. Many complications can occur postpartumly or post pregnancy. So, medically also should take care, then later on ethically, legally, social also impact can be there to the surrogate mother. So, the complete care to be given to the surrogate mother, and various other and ethical and legal guidelines should be said to the surrogate mother as well as even their family members, and as well as towards the intended couple, so that no future or legal implications can happen to the surrogate mother due to the process of surrogacy. And surrogacy should come out to be as an good for the society, good for the intended couple to have their own child. So, this was a part of the lecture from the ethical issues of surrogacy. So, these are the references you can go through. The first is from the year 2015, the reproductive ethics in commercial surrogacy, decision making in IVF clinics in New Delhi. Another was taken in the year of 2010, the ART of marketing babies. Another, the ethical and legal issues being available on this website if year 2012, and the last, invisible women in reproductive technologies, was for the year 2018. So, you all students and the audience can go through these references for further readings. Thank you very much.